Mark Twain once said, "Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect." And in the video today, I'm going to ask you to pause and reflect. Conventional personal finance advice, it says that you shouldn't invest until you've built a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Dave Ramsey, you've probably heard of him. He says fully fund your emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of expenses before investing heavily. Susan Orman, she says before you invest for your future, make sure you have an emergency savings account. And you hear this often. It's repeated so often that it almost feels like a law, kind of like a hard and fast rule. But I'm going to ask you today, is it actually good advice? The answer is yes, but also not always, because the idea behind it, that's pretty solid, but the way that it is applied might end up actually costing you more than it actually protects you. So let's break this down. First of all, what is an emergency fund actually for? At its core, an emergency fund is really a buffer, right? It's there to protect you from unexpected events, things like job loss, medical expenses, car repairs, things that are by definition unpredictable, right? They're not exactly rare, but they're not actually something that you can necessarily plan for on any given time frame. Importantly here, when you go this route of building up your slush fund first, it's about minimizing your risk. And that is why emergency funds are usually kept in things like high interest savings accounts. They're safe, they're liquid, they're accessible, not exciting for sure, but that's exactly the point of these. Now, the traditional advice, 3 to 6 months of expenses, has some logic to it, right? If you lose your income, that gives you time to recover without going into debt or without having to sell investments at the worst possible time. So far, it makes sense. But here's where I want to point out where it gets a little bit more nuanced. The rule assumes something that often goes unsaid. Building your emergency fund and investing are mutually exclusive. In other words, you do one, and after it's complete, you do the other. And I think that that's where this advice sort of starts to fall apart a little bit, because in reality, personal finance is rarely binary like that. Let's think about the trade-off you're making here. If you delay investing until you've built, let's say, a 3 month emergency fund that could take months, even years in some cases, depending on your income and your savings rate, and during that time, your money is just sitting there in cash. It's safe, no doubt, but it's earning very little. In some cases, it's earning nothing. Meanwhile, the markets over the long period of time, and in most time periods, actually tend to go up. Not in a straight line, of course, but historically, they've provided a higher rate of return than cash. That's why we invest. So if you choose to wait, you're essentially giving up the potential of compounding. And compounding, as we all know, especially early on, is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in long-term investing. Now, I do want to be careful here. I want to be clear. I'm not making an argument that skipping an emergency fund entirely is a good idea. It wouldn't be. It would be a bad idea because the risk that you're protecting is real. Emergencies do happen. The question isn't whether they do happen. It's not whether you need a fund. It's how much and when you put it in context in relationship to actual investing. Let's talk about the probabilities here. For most people, in most months, you don't experience a financial emergency. Think about your own life. Hopefully, true emergencies have been a rare event. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. They absolutely do. It can happen at any time. But the probability in any given short window is still relatively low if we think about it logically. That means that if you are delaying investing, let's say for a year, to fully build your emergency fund, you're effectively making a trade. You're sacrificing a year of potential market exposure in exchange for reducing the risk of needing to tap into your investments during an emergency. And that might not always be an optimal trade. There is another option I would like you to consider here. Instead of treating this as an all or nothing decision, and you hear that a lot, split the difference, right? Build your emergency fund and invest at the same time. For example, instead of putting 100% of your savings towards your emergency fund till you hit your target, you might allocate, say, 50% to the emergency fund, 50% to investments, 70-30, 80-20, whatever mix works best for you. The exact ratio, that's not really a point here. The point is that you're building both. You're building a safety net. At the same time, though, you're getting exposure to the market as early as possible. Now, of course, this does introduce some risk. If the emergency happens before your fund is fully built, then you might need to sell some investments. If the markets happen to be down at the time, you might be forced to lock in losses. It's not ideal, but that is the trade-off that you're going to make if you choose this route. In a very real sense, you're playing the odds, but let's keep everything in perspective. Not all emergencies are equal. Not all financial situations are equally exposed. If you are someone with stable employment, maybe you have low fixed expenses, you have access to credit, you probably don't need the same size of emergency fund as someone with unstable income or maybe dependents who heavily rely on them. Also, someone who's just starting out, where every year of compounding matters, it might benefit more from early investing than someone, for example, who's closer to retirement. So a rigid sort of one-size-fits-all rule, it starts to look less useful, right? I also want to point out the behavioral component here. For a lot of people, this concept of waiting until your emergency fund is done, that creates sort of a paralysis of sorts, because building that fund can feel slow. It might actually be slow, and then investing gets pushed further and further out into the future. Months can turn into years. Suddenly, the biggest advantage that you had, which is time, is gone. But if you allow for some investing early on, you're also building the habit. And as hopefully we all know, habits when it comes to investing matter more than some people think. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and try and put everything in perspective. Historically, markets have rewarded long-term participation. Not perfect timing, not perfect strategies, just staying invested. And the earlier you start, the more time compounding has to work. So delaying that start, there's a cost, even for reasons that were valid and very well intentioned. Of course, there are situations where the traditional advice does make sense. If your income is unstable, if you have high interest debt, if a financial shock would put you into a very difficult situation, then yeah, prioritizing larger emergency fund first is probably the safer move. There's nothing at all wrong with that. When we think about risk tolerance, you need to consider your entire financial situation, not just investing. That's fair to say. But for many people, especially if you have a relatively stable financial situation, then that very strict sort of no investing until your emergency fund is complete rule, that might be overly conservative. It reduces one type of risk, but it increases another. And pretty much like everything in finance, it's about balancing those risks. You're not going to eliminate them entirely. You can't do that, but choosing which ones you're more comfortable with. So what are the key takeaways here? First of all, yes, you do need an emergency fund. Nothing has changed there. Second, the idea that you must fully complete it before investing, I'm going to say that's more of a guideline than a hard and fast rule. Thirdly, for a lot of people, a hybrid approach. So you build your emergency fund while at the same time you're investing. That can offer a better balance between safety and long-term growth. Remember that at the end of the day, personal finance is exactly that. It's personal, right? There's no universal rule. There's no formula that works for every single person. And when you're told that the advice is absolute, probably any advice, it's worth questioning. Take you back to what Mark Twain said. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Now, I'm curious to hear whether you've taken the traditional route or whether you're open to pausing, to reflecting. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I will say thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.